Hi everyone, we're going to take a look right now at the CSS1 assignment, which is going to be due next week or whenever it is on your calendar. So this is where the really fun stuff starts, and it's also where the things that you can really apply to WordPress, because when we get into WordPress, you're not going to do a lot of the HTML coding, and you're not going to do any of the coding that goes on in the background to make the server functions work. But the way that you will be able to really change things is to go in and change the CSS. So this is where the real power is. And additionally, I'm going to take a look at Adobe brackets in this lesson so that people can choose to use whichever program that they want. You could have always chosen, but I think we may need a little bit more of an introduction now. Okay, so if we look at the first things, the first three elements on this rubric is talking about the places where CSS can actually exist. Where CSS stands for cascading style sheets. So it's all the style, the visual elements. And it's called cascading because the closer something is to the element on the page, the more power it has. So if something has is on an external style sheet, which we're going to talk about, it would be overridden by something that is on the internal to the HTML page, which would be up in the head tag. And that would be overridden by things that are down inside of the tag themselves. If there's style equals inside of the tag, like we have used on previous assignments, then that overrides everything else. But the best way to do it is the external, because you can style a whole bunch of pages and have them all look consistent. So let's talk about where things go. The first thing I'm going to do is I have a basic page here. Again, started. Nothing overly, I'll explain some of these elements that I've added, but nothing special about it. Additionally, since I'm using Dreamweaver, I've gone in to make sure that I have selected the correct folder, which is my HTML1. If I was using brackets, I would go in and open the folder. While we're doing this, I can open up brackets, make sure that it's popping open for me so we can use it. I think my brackets is over here. So for brackets, to do the same thing as selecting your file, you're going to go over and you're going to say open file, or open folder, excuse me. And then you will point to the location, which is, in my case, it's my HTML1, but it's wherever you have created your folder. And then your files show up over there. But for right now, I'm going to work in Dreamweaver, but it's pretty similar. Okay, so now that I have that, I created here the div ID equals container. Remember, I always want you to have that inside of your page. And now here I'm just going to put an H1 tag so I can play with it. Okay, if I want to style that tag, I have different areas that I can do it. I can do it inline, which is to say right here. And that changed my color. That is an inline style. The other place where I can put it is up here inside of the head tag. You see that I have style tags here. Let me put those again. Whoops, I erased them. And then inside of that, I can identify all of my H1 tags by calling the tag itself. So here I could put that information. Let's remove it from here. So I go back to being black. I believe that's an album, isn't it? Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. Okay, now I can say color, do my property and my value. And there you have it. Now I can change anything in here that I want. I can change my font family. A font family, by the way, is, let me start over so it gives me the code hint. I don't need that quotation mark, by the way, that time. Font family gives you a list of different fonts that you can select. So it's going to check on the computer here to see if you have Baskerville. If it doesn't have Baskerville, it will look for Palatino, Linotype. If not, it'll look for regular, and it will just work its way down until it gets down to the basic serif font. So I can go ahead and just select that one. Put my semicolon, and my font has changed. So everything that I want to do about that. So I have done my internal, my inline was down in the tag, and now if I wanted to do this externally, I can cut this. And you can see here that I made a link. I linked to a page called main.css. I say that its relationship is that it's a style sheet and the type is that it's a text. You don't have to understand that, just be able to copy or type out that kind of a link. So I don't have that file right now. If I go into my files, are over here. I don't have a file called main.css, so let's look at how we make that. I say File, New, CSS, Create. And then I just get down here and I can paste that information here. And I have to call that main.css because that was what was in my that's what was in there. So now if I go back here, it's still working even though I deleted that from there because the information is on this external CSS. So you can see I have my inline, which is in the tag itself, my internal, which is in the header, and my external, which is on the external page. Now the nice thing again about having an external CSS is that you can have 20, 50, 10,000, doesn't matter, pages all with this same link. And so the pages are going to have a consistent look and feel because they're all linked to the same style. And you only have to type out that information once. So it is most desirable when you are making web pages to put everything that you possibly can on an external style sheet. And then it reduces a lot of your duplication in coding. Let's see, the other things that I asked you for was to identify things by tag, ID, and class. So let's talk about this. Right now I have one ID equals container. That means that I only have one main box that is going to go around everything. So if I want to identify an ID, I am going to use a hashtag to do so. And you can see this popped up for me, hashtag ID equals container there. And I'm going to put my curly braces because whenever I do style, everything is contained within the curly braces. Now I can say in here that, and I'm going to go back so it gives me these nice pop-ups. I'm going to limit the width of this element to, let's say, 1200 pixels. So 1200 px with no spaces, semicolon. Let's give a background color. If I wanted to put a background image, I would do it with this, but I'm going to go ahead and select background color. And we can, let's see, what color do we want? Let's do something pale yellow. Have to get in there and hit that enter key really quick or else it does this, which is really annoying. So there, enter, there we go. Semicolon, let's give it some height. Pixels with no space there. And I want this to, instead of being stuck over to the left hand side, I want it to be in the middle. And the way I do that is by saying margin colon 0 auto. That's one of the things in the world you'll probably just kind of have to memorize. Okay, so now I have identified this by container, or excuse me, by ID. And you only use ID when you know that you're only going to have one of those items on the page. Like for instance, if I was going to make this be my header, my header for the page, not to be confused with the head of the page, but if it was going to be my page header and it was going to have its own style, then I could put the ID, give it ID equals header. We could do that right here. So I'm going to say pound. I'm only going to have one header, right? I'm not going to have headers all over the page. I'm just going to have one of them. So here we go. I'm going to put those curly braces, and now I can go in here and change the color of that. When you want to change font color, it's just plain old color, they say, rather than font color or anything like that. Okay. So I've identified that by ID. Now the other things that you can do is classes, and classes are if you have multiple items on the page. So let's say I want to go in here and I want to not put that in the header itself here. Well, I want to have it in my container, so I will keep it right there. So I'm going to say make a table. Now I could be indenting all of these things, by the way, to make them look a little bit more organized. Probably would have been just easier had I typed it rather than trying to copy and paste. Trying to save myself time, and it's not working very well. Control copy, paste, paste. Okay, so I have this table row here, and let's say that, let me just put some junk in there so that we have stuff. Okay, so let's say I want to have my reptiles. Turtles are reptiles, right? I'm not sure. Somebody in science tell me what's up with that. Let's put a border on this too. Border equals. Okay, so let's say I want the reptiles, and I'm assuming in this case that turtles and snakes are reptiles. Let's say that I want those to have a yellow or a purple background, and I want the other two to stay the same. So I can have a class because I have more than one of the items, but I don't want to just call everything in that row a reptile. So I want to identify certain items as reptiles. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say class equals reptiles. And so I put that on turtles just to avoid spelling errors. I'm going to go ahead here. So since I have more than one of them, they can be a class. So if I'm going to identify this up here in the header, Classes are identified with dots. So when I put that dot, you can see that it pops up reptiles. It does identify for me that those were classes. And now I can say what I want to have happen there. And this is nice that it's popping up this color, these code hints for me. So let's say we want this to have a brown background. There we go. So I wrap it all in the curly brackets, curly braces. And there we go. That's how we style things. So if I go back and take a look at everything that I've done so far, I'm asking you to use each of these things multiple times. So 3 times each. Do a lot of practice. But now I've done the inline style, I've used the external style, I've used the internal style, I've identified by tag, ID, and class. Not enough times. I want you to get more practice, but I've done all of that. Okay, so style the background of the page. That's where we are right now. So let's go ahead and start doing this on the external. So the background of the page is called the body. So we can make that like blue, whatever we want to do there. I could also put a background image if I had one. And I may pause this recording and just show you how to do that. But so we've done that. File, save. Let's go back in to take a look at the page. And now blue is my background color, so I've styled the background. Styling text we've already done in the headers, but you can put those styles in anything that you want to do. For instance, I can style a paragraph tag, a P tag. Again, I can put it anywhere I want to put it. Let's say because I want multiple types. Let's do font family here. It's going to be all these different things that we can do. How much fun we can have with this. Okay, so there that is. And to make things appear, sometimes you have to hit this little refresh button. So you can style font however you want. We created lists last time. You can style lists. I'm going to put it up here just so we don't run out of space. The way typically you see things indented is you have kind of the parent tag and then the child tags are indented inside of it. I don't know how to spell popsicles. Is that right? I guess so. It's not pulling up the spell check. So I have my list there, and now I can go in and I can style different things about the list. I can go in and say, let's do it up here in the style. We can style by tag here, but I can do whatever I want. Let's say list style. Let's make it in lower Greek. So you can have all kinds of fun with these things. So I'm styling lists. Web fonts are kind of cool too. Let's take a look at where I get web fonts. You can get them inside of Dreamweaver actually if you want to, but instead of doing that, I'm going to, because I find it a little bit easier to use Google Fonts. Google Web Fonts here pop up, so I'm going to go pop that up. So you can pick what kind of font you want to use. So this is, let's see. There's like 800 fonts in here, and you can go in and start searching for, oh, that's a pretty one. Let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And when I hit the plus sign, this little thing popped up for me. So I have to put this link in the top. It says embed my font. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy that link. And that will go in the head of my page. I put that there, and then going back, I can see that this is my font family. So I'm going to go ahead and steal that. And then let's take that and change my header to be my font family. Where did I put that? Right here. So font family, I just erase this and drop that new one in. Save. And it pulls that from the font. So you can have all kinds of fun with this project and get lots of cool visual effects going on. If you are using brackets, you can go ahead and get your references from here actually. You can go through the tutorials, and I would like everybody to go through the tutorials, and it gives you a lot of different things that you can do. But also in you can start picking, like say, oh, I would like to have rounded corners. How do I do rounded corners? Border radius. So you can have rounded corner. How do I style lengths? Tells you how to do that. So you can go through here and flip through and have a lot of fun. Dreamweaver does a lot of the work for you because it tells you what you can style and where, but it's a good idea to kind of flip through this in W3 Schools just to see the types of things that you can do, like a 3D transform. What is that? Let's see. All these kinds of things that you can do. What fun is that? And they tell you how to do these things. So go in and have a blast with that. For those of you who are using brackets, it's going to be a very similar situation here. So you're going to have to do a little bit of typing, but it does help you with different things. If you're trying to style an inline style, it won't help you very much. Like say I wanted to add something to this, you're going to have to do all of your inline styles by hand because it forces you, or it tries to force you to do your styling in the proper locations. For instance, it really wants you to do your styles over here on, I have the main page opened up there. But let's say I wanted to do, let's get that 3D rotation here. And I'm just going to copy it because I cheat that way. Let's see how this goes. Let's do it on my H1. Since I have more, I can actually go up here and put it there. I want to make sure I don't have too many. Now to see things live here, I'm going to go ahead and say File, Enable Live Preview. And it will take a second here. Oops, am I on the right page? I'm not on the right page. I want to enable live preview of this one. Oh, this is it. There it is. I rotated it. It's upside down now. So The reason why it was working before that you did the rollovers, it had a JavaScript rollover, but right now my text is upside down. So you can play with all kinds of things on here and just go crazy. Have some fun with it. It doesn't have to be beautiful this time. Just go through and really get a good understanding of your cascading style sheets, where to put them and how to call things with them.